Greetings, theists and non-theists. I'm the Atheist Paladin. So Veritas responds to Theoretical's bullshit of non-resistant non-belief. And after even watching the video quite a few times through, I am not convinced, and here's a few of the problems that I have with his debunking of the non-resistant non-belief. First, Veritas states that it may not be God's goal to give propositional knowledge of himself, but rather fiala knowledge of them. But this has a problem. You cannot have a relationship with somebody that you do not know exists. So propositional knowledge is a requirement of that. It naturally extends that propositional knowledge comes first, before there is an actual relationship, before there is an actual exchange. And so, in the Veritas' first rail against the first premise fails. It fails utterly. And then he says the second premise has a contradiction, and that and what God wants to make everyone known is that you're a sinner is a contradiction, because you cannot freely be forced to admit that you're a sinner. But that's a problem again. Admitting that you're a sinner is different than accepting the fact that you want to change that you want to make that change. I have met many of alcoholics that did admit that they're alcoholics, but did not want to change. So admitting that I'm a sinner, so I can freely admit that in my atheism, that I'm a sinner according to Christianity's precepts, does not make it in and of myself a Christian. It only reveals that I know I am wrong according to Christianity, and that is all. So God revealing himself to them and letting them know that they have these characteristics that interfere with a actual relationship still needs to precede not only the salvific act, but needs to still precipitate the actual relationship. Because you can't get, your sinnerhood out the way. You got to get your sinnerhood out the way before you actually have a relationship with God, as I understand Christianity. And then you go on about that there is an actual good reason to which God makes his existence uncertain for certain moral reasons. You give this reason by Michael Murray. The problem is that when you quoted James 2:19 to theoretical bullshit, it's actually just as applicational to Michael Murray. So the problem that Michael Murray has is the same that theoretical bullshit apparently has, is that propositional knowledge does not always necessitate a relationship. That I can agree on, but that's also the same problem of Michael Murray. So, and then you talk about the heathen and the unknown God, the video that you also linked to. The problem is it now makes the opposite assertion of what Michael Murray says, and that everybody does indeed have the proper amount of propositional knowledge of God, the Father at least, and still do have the capacity to enter a relationship with the Creator and to submit to His morals. So you're now presenting what you didn't realize in examining both of these. They all actually present an opposite case of one another. Not readily apparent, but if anyone examines both in detail, it sort of comes to the front. So then you go in to say that how would theoretical bullshit know that this is what God must do in order to make people believe? Well, it necessarily follows. If somebody is not having a relationship with God, and as a result of not having that relationship will suffer eternal torment, it logically follows that if this God is loving, that he must do that. That's what it means to be loving, is that you go out and try to spare someone suffering because you love them. So if God is not willing to do what it takes in order to help spare someone from possibly unnecessary suffering, then God is not loving. So we're now falling into arguments of evil and theodicy and all this. So why does he know that more billions of people will be saved because they have propositional knowledge? It's because non-resistant non-belief. That's how he knows. I am myself willing to believe in a God if there's actually a proper amount of knowledge that it actually reveals his existence. I am not willing to base my life. So he gets himself and he's got me. He's got at least two people, and it's probably not unreasonable to assume that people given with the proper evidence would actually go along with it. Now, again, you're right in that saying that this knowledge doesn't necessarily follow, propositional knowledge does not necessarily follow into an actual relationship and may be detrimental, is irrelevant, because if someone knowingly knows God exists and still acts in accordance that they are not having an actual good relationship with God, that's on them. And that actually reveals who they are. So, in actually have a proper relationship, again, a God has to reveal himself in some sort of way. So if it's to their detriment, then that's, displaying a fault of their character, and not an actual fault of the argument. So that pretty much shows that the non-resistant non-belief still pretty much stands. There is still no good reason, moral or otherwise, to actually to understand why a loving God would deny people the knowledge of his existence and the proper knowledge that leads to salvation to those who would actually be non-resistant to that. So, peace.